Today, Levi and I are diving into why restricted free agency, in my opinion, is one of the most frustrating and confusing parts of the NBA offseason every year, but specifically in this year. We're going to talk about how it works, why I think it's outdated and unfair, and what it means for guys like Jonathan Kuminga and Cam Thomas right now. Let's get into it. Levi, what's up?
What's going on? How you doing?
Good. Long time. It's been a long time. You've
Yeah.
been you've been riding solo for a bit, and it's good to get some of the content out here together. So I messaged you and was telling you, you know, I really want to talk about this because if anyone is following, there's some fun stuff going on between Cam Thomas and Zach Lowe, and comments that Zach Lowe is saying that in a sense teams believe he's like a glorified ball hog, and it's why people don't want to make an offer for him. Cam Thomas coming back at him, and Zach Lowe then coming back at him, and but one of the craziest things to me is Cam Thomas is still not signed. Jonathan Kuminga is still not signed. And the whole idea of restricted free agency to me has just been made a mockery. I think it's silly. And I want to talk it out. And I want us to try to figure out what's going to happen with Kuminga, what's going to happen with Cam Thomas, and what's going to happen with restricted free agency in total. So, first, I want to just share with everybody of how restricted free agency works so that we're all on the same page. Any player drafted in the first round, they're under contract for 4 years. And if they are not given an extension, a team is able to offer them a qualifying offer where basically they now can match any offer that is given to this player by any other team. We've had some pretty intense examples of this where the Nets 1 year tried to sign a bunch of people and what's called the poison pill and kind of like front loading contracts with money, and then the end of the contract is not so much money. And I think specifically they did this with Tyler Johnson, and the Heat then said, no, we really want him. And then they signed him, and then they ended up letting him go. And then he actually went to the Nets afterwards, and the Nets got him for much cheaper. The Nets also did this, I think, with Otto Porter. A team is offering money for this player, and the team that owns his rights can now match any offer that's being made. So right now we have that with a couple of players in the NBA. And Levi, let's just start with, what are your thoughts on restricted free agency as a whole, and also what's going on with Cam Thomas and Kuminga?
Um, in today's NBA, I think there's a lot of for a lot of teams, it's often hard to kind of say, actually, we are doing addition by subtraction. By that I mean they have a hard time saying, yeah, we just let this player walk, because they get a lot of flack for it. I think that this setup of how it is with restricted free agency is to try to help small market teams be able to keep their players by offering them more incentive to stay. And B, it also allows a little bit more of a competitive environment where if a team, like we see again and again, a player, wants more money from the team, from their team that has the rights essentially, um, it allows them to kind of play the field a little bit better if there's another team coming with a more competitive offer, right? Obviously, as you're saying, we've seen it result in teams kind of messing with other teams by offering these insanely high contracts. It's also resulted then in some teams having to pay those players because they offered the deal and the other team was like, take them, by all means, go for it. Um, I think with certain players, right, you see when there's a limitation to their game. Right, with Cam Thomas, for example, I think he has like one of the worst assist ratios in the NBA. He doesn't pass the ball. He happens to be a very good scorer, right? He averaged like 25
I think
points.
24, 25 points, yeah.
So he's not a bad player by any means. He's also young. I think he's around 24. Um, he's a very good player. It's just in today's NBA, there are fewer and fewer teams that teams are just willing to say, okay, you know what? Let's just have this player go out there and score many points. What's interesting to me is they did get Michael Porter Jr. So for the construction of the Nets, he's another player that kind of just does that for you in a different size, but probably misses around the same amount of games as Cam Thomas throughout the past few seasons of his career. So that being said, I I think that the counter argument for Cam Thomas, as well as right now, we have some other notable restricted free agents, Josh Giddy, for example, Jonathan Kuminga, you mentioned. The difficulty is that these teams are also teams that they're not exactly committed to those players. They're trying to keep their options open. Um, Whether or not the Bulls should be doing that is a different question. But the Warriors actually, this is a very sensitive situation for the Warriors because they really, really need the value of Jonathan Kuminga, not Jonathan Kuminga himself. They don't really want him back. Um, I don't know whether that's front office or Steve Kerr, who knows, but for whatever reason he doesn't fit the mold. They need the value of him, but not too expensive. Otherwise, they go like really far into the luxury and second apron and all that stuff, while trying to really help facilitate getting Steph another ring and Jimmy and all these guys. Um, the Bulls, on the other hand, are always an enigma. Always trying to keep their options open for whatever reason, but always kind of making the worst decisions. Personally, I think that Josh Giddy was the engine of why that team succeeded so much in the second half of the season. Obviously, second half of the season, a lot of people take more and less seriously. But the Nets, very uniquely, kind of don't really have much to lose as far as re-signing Cam Thomas. So I'm in regards to restricted free agency, I think that there needs to be an answer for other teams signing players away, right? Especially because we saw in the past couple of years, like since 2016, right? Because of the CBA, all of a sudden the salary cap boosts, and then players like Kevin Durant can get offered the most amount of money from the Golden State Warriors, who were defending champions. Sorry, who were a year removed from being the defending champions at the time. So like you know there needs to be some protections against it and some incentive to have players stick around. But I think like many things in the NBA, the the problem is not solved by what restricted free agency is today. And there's a lot of young players who are really, specifically the ones we mentioned, being affected by the fact that their teams don't necessarily want them, but they want the value of who those players are. And it restricts them from
Yeah.
being able to go to another team and just, play for that team.
The whole concept is just, and like, as a Nets fan myself, I, I know what Sean Marks was doing a bunch of years ago when restricted free agency was very active. I, just think about it from this perspective. I truly don't understand why any GM would want to go through the process of, well, take a step back. If you have the rights to the player, of course you're going to use this. This is the best thing in the entire world. You make no decisions. Either a team comes to you with a value and you're like, yeah, I guess he is worth that, so we'll just keep him. Or, no, we don't really want him. And then we could still even think about a sign and trade situation. Like, all the power to the owner. Now, but for another team, I legitimately don't get why you would want to do this. Like, the player has no say. So I'm going to spend all this time researching, trying to analyze, like, how would this player fit with my roster? And I identify, this is the guy. This is a guy I want on my team. And I'm going to put all the contract structure together, and I'm going to do all this time. I'm going to sit with him. I'm going to talk with him. Yeah, he wants to come with us, so on and so forth. Offer him the contract. Sorry, we're going to take him. Like, it's not a surprise to me that no team has made any offers over the course of this entire free agency period, and why we're waiting until now and all these guys are getting screwed. Because why would a team try to sign someone in the beginning when they know that it will just be taken away from them? And now it's only hurting the player themselves because No team is going to want to offer it. And now the team that owns them is going to say, look, man, it reminds me of like Lamar Jackson in football, where the Ravens were like, go test out your market, go see what people want. Nobody wants you. We still want you. Like we value you, but clearly we're not going to offer you the 4 year, $100 million contract. We'll give you something else. Like to me, it only is a detriment to the player, and for an opposing team that doesn't own the player. I just don't get the process of why you would do this. It makes no sense to me.
So maybe there should be more of a standardized bid kind of to input to show to gauge interest of players. The problem is again, it kind of comes down to the teams that are offering to those players are also they can't offer what the original team can or what the what the home team can just because of how the deals are structured right now. So I feel like maybe there should just be more of a timetable adjustment essentially, um, in order to have more set boundaries for when a team can establish that they want the restricted free agent or not. Right? Like a lot of those teams that otherwise would have tried to send a deal over to some of these restricted free agents by this point have probably tried to make adjustments to get other moves done that fill up the salary cap equally. So it ends up being that like you're saying, not only do these players suffer, but also like um the it, in a weird way, I think it actually it does affect the parity of the NBA, where it doesn't spread out the talent distribution if a team is not intending on keeping a player, but now they also can't really trade the player, then it like kind of leaves them in this limbo, and they have to like you know something has to compromise, and usually it's not the team. So it I think it is damaging. I think like you're saying, I think it is damaging to the players, mostly in this situation, right? Like most other teams that didn't have a point guard before that could have used Josh Giddy even at a higher price point, could have maneuvered and adjusted some contracts. Like there's not really much of that now. Most needs are filled, and the only team that really can go back to is the Bulls, and the Bulls are they want him for 20, and now he wants 30. Like allegedly, like, and that's a team
It gives
again
the players zero what's the leverage.
leverage
Of course, Giddy's gonna say I want 30 million because like he has to.
as he
Like
should,
he has to
right?
try and yeah, he has to try and up his value, but he has zero ground to stand on because of this concept of restricted free agency. Like before, I was pulling up Giddy's numbers, and by the way, like I knew he was good at the end of the year. I don't think I realized like the type of
He was
numbers he was putting up.
he was great at the end of the year. And
I'm
again, like
looking here.
he's not gonna match
He
those
was
stats, but if
averaging a
he's
triple
75,
double.
right, on above I think 45% 3-point shooting. Like that's not going to be his average,
He was February in 11 games. He shot 53% from three.
Yeah.
In March, he shot 36%, and in April, he shot 40%. And all the other, in terms of field goal percentage, 47%, 49%, 50%. And his last 4 games, he averaged 21, 13, and 11. But this is the point. If he was an unrestricted free agent, the guy would have been signed in the first week of free agency. No one wants to touch restricted free agents because it's a waste of their time, it's a waste of their effort. The team that owns him literally has to do nothing and just waits. And the only person that suffers here is the player. And it just, well, I don't know when the new CBA is or what when they're doing these. Restricted free agency, in my opinion, has to go because it's just it's ruining the value for all of these players, and it just doesn't make any sense for any other franchise to try and do this. I'm remembering a couple of years ago was it the Bucks who someone offered DeAndre Ayton a contract because he was a restricted free agent, and then the Suns matched it, and then they brought him back. It, I think I'm speechless. It just I can't find any rational reason for it at this time.
It's just a way for teams to get discounts because the truth is that again, at the beginning of free agency this year, the same contract disputes that are happening right now were happening at the beginning of free agency. Only the players have less leverage to actually get the money that they are trying to vie for, and probably essentially are worth, right? If those teams are playing more successful basketball, maybe Cam Thomas, whatever you want to say, but it doesn't change the outlook other than the fact that the teams are getting are it's enabling the teams to spend less on players, and I feel like you kind of see it in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different things, right? Where you're like, oh, but the second apron, so we're limiting how much teams are spending. What does that mean? Does that mean that teams are spending the equal amount? And it's crazy that I'm as a Thunder fan, I'm surprised that the Thunder decided to spend as much as they did on their top three guys, in their extensions. But in viewing it, right, they're trying to clamp down on how much teams are spending in order to reduce, right, the amount of talent buildup. Unfortunately, what that means is it ends up being the players who lose the most amount of value, not the teams. So I I think in large part a lot of discussions take place around expansion, right? Because of the fact that there is so much talent, then more teams have more money to, like, more money can go around the league. But I think the same problem will still exist, unfortunately, because those teams will also build up with talent and whatever. When there's excess budget, right? 25 million or whatever went to Timofey Mozgov. Like, when you think that you're spending house money, it's going to go out. So there needs to be some sort of adjustment because the teams are not losing out on much here.
Yeah. So let's quickly run through some of these bigger restricted free agents. We mentioned, I guess, the big three of Cam Thomas, Kuminga, and Josh Giddy. Cam Thomas, he's watching him. He's a gifted scorer. And to his credit, one of the things that he mentioned was that because I am such a gifted scorer, people have to throw double teams at me. So I command a lot more attention. Now, is he necessarily going to find the guy who's cutting to the basket and make the assist? Maybe not. But if he can pass out of it, it means that there's other stuff going on that they can potentially get a bucket. So I get his point. Now, from the Nets perspective, for those that haven't gotten a chance to watch, we'll link it maybe up here, or up here, or up here, or wherever it is on the YouTube video. My breakdown of the Nets draft and what I think they were trying to accomplish. But in short, they're looking for guys who play make, guys who pass. Yegor Demin, Nolan Traore, um, Danny Wolf, Ben Saraf. These are all guys that are known for dribbling and passing, otherwise known as not Cam Thomas. And they're trying to create something that I think he can do stuff on this team. There's no doubt. And honestly, if I'm the Nets, why not? Like you said, no one else is signing him. Sign him for a year deal. Maybe he'll sign the qualifying offer. He'll play that 1 year deal and then be an unrestricted free agent next year. But any other team around the league, you see that Cam Thomas can maybe be a potential fit?
I'm trying to think right now. I'm just going through it in my head because it's difficult because we started to shift away from kind of one player scoring options. Mm, maybe, maybe the Rockets, right? Like a bench scorer. I just feel like the Rockets kind of have a lot of potential options. I was gonna say maybe even the Magic, but they don't have enough ball movement to, I think, make that work. It's tricky with him. It's tricky. Like, obviously, I think the Nuggets would have been perfect, but I think what amount of money he's going to try to command, I think, is going to be too much for what the Nuggets can offer. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think every other team is trying, like, at least believes of themselves, right? Like, I think that the Kings would be a great fit because I don't think that the Kings have much else good that's going on. Um, that being said, I think a lot of other teams think that they have something else that they're trying to build towards, regardless of them being successful or not. I don't think they're going to buy into the idea of Cam Thomas, but I think he's a very good player, really.
Yeah, I'm trying to look here. Which teams were at the bottom of bench scoring? Um, Seeing here, 76ers, Clippers, Rockets, Pelicans, Hornets. Um, I mean, yeah, I guess maybe he's fun on the Hornets. Maybe he's fun. The Pelicans are taking everybody and anybody, so like maybe that's a good choice. Uh, But
But they don't have Jordan Poole now. Like
at this point, it's finding a team, and this is probably why people aren't signing it. It's just it's finding the right situation where, um, for him, he feels like he could be a starter. And look, not everybody can score 24, 25 points a game in the NBA. That's not a simple thing to
right.
do. Um, but as someone who can be someone who could catch fire off the bench, maybe Jordan Clarkson esque, um, doing something like that, then he probably fits the role. Kuminga is a fascinating story because the Warriors really had high hopes for him. Before last season, I remember seeing Draymond Green was talking about like, yeah, we're expecting a lot from Kuminga this year. It's clear the team hates his guts. Um, and he then played really well in the playoffs, with in his
Because he's
scoring
good.
numbers
Because he's
because
good.
he's good and he's a big dude and he's got like there's a lot that's enticing. I came up with a great meme in my head when you were talking before, not because I wasn't listening, I was very much listening. Um, where I mean, you see these, the classic meme of like someone taking a stick and like saying like do something, and like the Warriors just like not doing anything. It's just like I wonder how long they want to wait of like just literally not doing anything.
Well, I just
Like,
don't think they have much else that they can do is the problem. Like I think that's Kuminga is their last piece that they can really do anything with, right? They're not going to get LeBron. They're not replacing LeBron with they're not replacing Jimmy Butler with LeBron, right? Like it's not happening, and so much of their money is tied up in all of their top guys that they need, and to have the return of Kuminga, it's going to be a little bit. They're going to really. I think they want to try to spread it out, not get another huge piece, but serviceable players that are not going to cost them too much. So I think that that's like the only thing that they can do, really.
yeah.
But
So like
I can imagine him fitting on so many teams in this league.
because he's good.
And he still has such tremendous upside when he's on the floor and playing, you know, like
I'll
his
tell you,
stats have improved regardless of holding back or whatever.
if I'm a team that's trying to rebuild in some way, like if I'm the Raptors, go after Kuminga. If I'm the Bulls will take anybody. Although honestly, they probably wouldn't take Kuminga because it would be too much sense for them and like be a good idea. So like maybe not. Um, but the Wizards, like why not? Like all these teams that there's something that they can try to build off of. The Jazz, like can you imagine Ace Bailey and Jonathan Kuminga?
I think that was one of the rumored landing spots for him last year because of Lowry Markkinen, but I think apparently now they're not trying to trade Lowry Markkinen, so I don't know. But
Which makes all the sense in the world because
right,
they're very close to winning. So they should be keeping him. Lastly, for time constraints, Josh Giddy, where would you like to see him?
I want to see him go back to the Bulls. I liked him in that system. I, at the end of that year, at the end of last year, you had between him, Trey Jones, okay? He was on the bench for the Spurs. They needed a point guard next to Wemby, and he couldn't get on the floor. Trey Jones was putting up triple doubles last year, at the end of last year, okay? Kobe White, Zach Collins was ripping it up. Like, it was just, it felt like that Bulls team from a couple years ago that ended up being, that was like the 1 seed or whatever through, I don't know if it was 1 seed, maybe 4 seed, I don't remember what exactly it was, through the first half of the season. Like, it was a Billy Donovan free flowing offense, but no one was the Superman of that team. But Josh Giddy was just like everything hinged on Josh Giddy. When he went out, you also saw that they had like some, stagnant play. I would really love to see him on the Bulls. If they can't make a deal work there, it's so hard. Like I said, like a lot of teams address their point guard needs.
The Bulls, to me, like you said, it's the most, it's the place that makes the most sense and the place that's most exciting. Why is it most exciting? Because he put up crazy numbers there. Like, again, we talk about,
And they're
he
winning
was
some
averaging a
games.
triple double.
Yeah.
Like, it was those numbers. Those look like Jokic numbers. And let's get this straight. I am not saying that he's Jokic. The point is that those numbers of 21, 13, and 11, like, that's so exciting. That's so fun. I remember towards the end of the year, he had this crazy buzzer beater, and like, they were just fun. And like him being there, well, him used to be on OKC, him getting traded, he was like so like happy for OKC. I want to be happy for Josh Giddy. Get him back on the Bulls, get him back in that system where he was just successful, and let's just see goodness out of him.
Yeah, Karnisovas, make a winning move. How about?
Let's
We'd like
do
to
it.
see that happen. Worst comes to worst, they're still better than having a bunch of injured players on your bench all year long.
And they're probably better than last year's Bulls team because that's not hard to beat.
That was your daily basketball recap. Thank you, Max, for attempting a first take of this outro. Thank you also for producing countless number of videos over the past few weeks and just doing great stuff. Doing great stuff. Please keep an eye out for also Max's new initiative that's coming out soon. We posted a couple or he posted a couple of promos for it on the channel already. It's called Roll Call. He's exposing, in the best way, some of the unsung heroes of many NBA teams. So that's going to be coming out soon. Shlomo, looking forward to seeing you soon, my co-host. We want to just thank you guys for listening. It's been a great time so far. Just building better and better. Max, final thoughts?
I love you guys.
Perfect. Have a great day.